are 13 games in, and we're one game under 500, and 1-3 in the league, and I think it's a little too early to judge where everybody stands in the league, particularly at the early stages in league play. A lot of it depends on who you played and where you played them, and I think over the next couple of weeks, those things will start to balance out a little bit. But it's been a rather unique season for us up to this point, simply because we've had so many injuries. We've had two guys who've had season-ending injuries and out for the year, and a third who are probably going to take a medical red shirt, and two guys are still playing on significant surgeries they had before the season started. So we never really have hit our stride in terms of personnel because we've been limited. But the thing about this team, they haven't quit, and they've been fighters, and we've been right there. We've had a really hard-fought loss at Georgia State on Saturday that I thought we could have won the game and just didn't get it finished. So moving into these next 2 weeks where we've got 5 games in 10 days, it's really going to set the stage for us in terms of heading toward the end of the postseason tournament.
Thank you, Coach. As a reminder, members of the media, star one to get in the queue to ask questions. Our first question comes from Jarrett with the Sunbelt Digital Network. Jarrett, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach.
Hey,
how you doing?
Good.
Can you talk a little bit about Wesley Parsons, who's set a career high in 2 straight games? What have you been seeing as far as improvement from the freshman?
Well, early on, we didn't expect him to be thrust into such a role where we were dependent on him so much. But when 2 of our junior college guards came up with those injuries that they've had to deal with, and one of them hadn't played all year, and the other one basically just been a shell of himself, and Oscar Reinfeld, it thrust him into a much more important role. And starting out, he really played well. He played well against Ole Miss and Georgia, and I think what happened is nobody knew about him before the season started in terms of the opponent, and then after he played so well in those early games, they got video on him. They started preparing for him, and he had a spell there for about 4 or 5 games where he wasn't shooting the ball as he was early in the year, as well as he was early in the year, and slowed him down a little bit. But now I think he's hit a rhythm, and in league play he's been terrific. He's shot the ball at a high clip, and he's been efficient inside the three-point line. So we need to keep him going. And finally on Saturday, he and Musa both were making shots on the same day, and that's when we're really potent offensively, when both those guys are scoring on the perimeter.
I mean, you have the duo that combined and averaging, I think, nearly half your team's points. Can you talk about your distribution of points? Do you need others to kind of step up?
We do. I mean, we're not a team that scores a whole lot in our 4 and 5 position, but Kevin Thomas is a guy who, going into league play, was averaging 12 points and 9 rebounds. And the night of our first league game, he's averaging 12 points, 9 rebounds, and he's first in the nation in field goal percentage. And that flu or bug, whatever was going through, hit him about an hour before tip-off, and he tried to play. He just had no energy. He was thrown up, and this couldn't hardly go. And he had 0 points and 0 rebounds against Texas State. And since then, he hadn't picked it back up. He hadn't picked it back up to the height that he was playing at before we went into conference play. And he's the one guy who we think can really step up, and he's got to get his numbers up. To help, to balance this thing out, because right now we've got 2 guys probably doing too much scoring.
Okay, so what are you looking for? I mean, the team ranks, 4th, I think, in field goal percentage, but down in 7th in points per game. How do you kind of translate to getting? You're making your shots, it seems like, for the most part, but how do you get that to translate to averaging more per game?
Well, again, I think we have to have more balance. I think the thing that we've got to do is we're so limited in terms of personnel. We basically have about 8 guys we're playing, and 2 of them are freshmen who on paper aren't quite ready for Sunbelt play, but they've been put in a situation where they've got to try to give us as much as they can. But we've got to get more out of our 2 post players in terms of offensive rebounding. Those second chance points are critical as the season develops. If you look at us from a rebounding standpoint in league play, we're down at the bottom of the league, and we need to get that up, and that'll balance our scoring out some if we can get our 4s and our 5s score more on the offensive glass.
I think you guys are kind of near the bottom in total rebounding margin. Is also the defensive glass needs to be cleaned up a little bit?
It does. I mean, we're last in the league in defensive rebounding percentage, and we've got to shore that up. And in fact, that cost us a game on Saturday. We had done a pretty good job against Georgia State the entire game on the offense on defensive glass, not giving them second chance points. And in the last 5 minutes of the game, they had 4 offensive rebounds and they scored on every one of them. So that was the difference in the game, and just those offensive rebounds we gave up at the very end. So I don't think we're not built to be a great rebounding team right now, but we've definitely got to be better than how we're playing.
How has your non-conference schedule kind of prepared you for the upcoming conference season?
Well, I mean, we had 2 or 3 close games, and I think that's important in the sense that, you know, when these close games happen in league play, it's not the first time you've seen them. And we had close games on the road. We had a close game here at home. So, for example, when in the Georgia State game, I didn't see any kind of panic down the stretch. As that game got down to a back and forth possession, one team's going to step up and win the game or not. And the thing you want to look for in your coach is how in your team as a coach is how does the team respond? You know, is there any panic in them? And I think those close games in non-conference play help prepare us for this situation.
I mean, we talked a little bit about rebounding. Do you think that's the biggest thing your team still needs to work on, or?
No, we need to be, you know, our 2 biggest areas we need to be better come in, you know, defensively, and it comes in, you know, defense and rebounding. And if you look, you know, within any league, and again, the league will start shaking itself out in a couple of weeks when everybody's had a more balanced schedule. For example, our 2 road games have been at Louisiana Lafayette and at Georgia State, the preseason top 2 teams in the league preseason. So things will shake up a little more as we move on here. But if we're going to climb our way back into this you know, into the conference race, we've got to get better, you know, defensively in terms of holding the opponent to a lesser percentage, and then we've got to do a better job rebounding the ball.
All right, thanks so much, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Our next questions come from area code 757. I'll call her. Please identify yourself and go ahead.
Hey, it's Doug Robertson with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. How are you, Coach?
Hey, Doug. Good.
Just a quick question for you. Y'all had a lot of success against Georgia State zone defenses, both Saturday and last year at Troy. And I was hoping you could talk to me just a little bit about the key to kind of unlocking that zone, and also what, in your opinion, makes it work for Georgia State.
Well, the key to have a chance to win the game against them is you have to minimize your live ball turnovers, and because they're a team that they don't. You know, they don't really necessarily beat you with their man with a defense that like a traditional man-to-man defense where teams just dig in and get stops and consistently get stops, because if you look, they give up a pretty good percentage on a pretty regular basis. I mean, I know they've been giving up some 3-pointers and a higher percentage than teams have normally shot against them. But what you know, unless you dig into the stats, what you don't see is how they create turnovers. And what they do with those turnovers is they go score on the other end because they're so good on the perimeter. It all starts with RJ out there with his length and his just basketball IQ. And what happens is when you turn the ball over, as you're trying to move the ball around the perimeter against their zone, when you turn it over, now all of a sudden they're attacking you in a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1. And when they convert them, those are just high percentage shots for them. So they'll give up a high percentage playing that zone, but it's those live ball turnovers that they create, and that they go take advantage of on the other end, that makes them so hard to deal with. And they've got good length on the perimeter. I think they move RJ around a lot, and they're used to playing it. And on the flip side of that is offensively, you know, you don't work on zone offense every day. You spend a lot more time in preseason and a lot more time in practice working on man-to-man offense, and then all of a sudden you get 1, 2, 3, however they fall on the schedule, how many days you get to prepare for a zone defense. That's just the uniqueness of it helps them as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you. We do appreciate your time.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.